Welcome, everyone, to the Week 14 series of Just Saying Football with Jack and Sean. I'm your host, Sean Gann, alongside my partner, Jack McNicholas. We're here to bring you news, notes, weekly updates, and game analysis of your favorite teams from around the league. If you had not had the chance, go check out our website at justsayingfootball.com and follow us on Instagram at justsayingwjs for article and video updates. Well, Week 14 Sunday is right about to be upon us. We just saw the Patriots lose, who I picked, and they lost handily to the Rams. But my Vikings right now are heading off to Tampa Bay to face Tom Brady and the Buccaneers. Jack, is there any hope for my team to win this one?
There has to be some kind of hope. I mean, I want to lean Tampa Bay at home here. They have been looking just fantastic over the course of some of these games the last few weeks. But what I'm looking for is, the Vikings receivers, as always, your boys Adam Thielen and Justin Jefferson, to really get it done. I think they're going to be able to attack this defense. I think that, on the other side of the ball, we got, more receivers. We got Godwin. We got Gronkowski, who can have a big game with no Kendricks. I know that you're worried about that.
I'm so worried. You have no idea. With Eric Kendricks' calf injury, last week what happened was that he had the calf injury a little bit through practices. And then right before the game against Jacksonville, literally in the warm-ups right before kickoff, like 5 minutes before kickoff, he tweaks the calf. He didn't get to practice this week. He's going to be out again. He's our cover guy, and he's one of the best at it. He's definitely by far one of the best linebackers in the league. We saw Todd Davis last week step up, but it's just not the same when you don't have Eric Kendricks out there leading it. And I'm worried. Like you said, the weapons of this Tampa Bay team is really, really good. Mike Evans will be in. Chris Godwin will be in. Antonio Brown will be in.
Yeah.
Rob Gronkowski, these guys are able to put up numbers, are able to find separation. They'll be able to move the ball. The Vikings are not able to get pressure on Tom Brady, and we haven't been able to get a lot of good pressure on quarterbacks this year. It's going to be a long game for us. We need to make him uncomfortable. We got to make him a little bit off his feet. I don't mind them throwing deep on us because that hasn't been their strength all season, but that doesn't mean that we can't not look out for it. So I'm looking at this team right now, and I have to lean towards Tampa Bay. I know that they're not playing great. I know that the Vikings have been playing very, very well since we started 1-5, but I just think that there's too much firepower on this team that it will be enough for them to edge past us. Again, we have a young secondary. We have two rookies starting. It's going to be a way for Mike Evans and Chris Godwin and Antonio Brown to just sort of take advantage of a youthful secondary.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to take Tampa Bay in this one, but I do just want to mention, I think that the way that the Vikings have a real chance to win this game is just through the run game, like they have been all season. Dalvin Cook, he's second in attempts right now. He has 13 total touchdowns right now on the year, 14 actually with another receiving touchdown. He's getting involved. He's keeping the pace of this game, and I think that Kirk Cousins is playing well enough. But I think that this is going to come down to a wire in a game like that, and I trust Tom Brady in that.
Yeah, hopefully it comes down to the wire. I'd love to see the Vikings keep it in there for that long. I'm not as high on that. I feel like it's going to be like 34-23, a pretty handled victory towards Tampa Bay. But moving on, we got the Arizona Cardinals coming to New York, Jack. They're facing your Giants first in the NFC East. They got a chance now to kind of take a big lead. We're all a little bit surprised that Washington won last week against the Steelers to keep that tied, although you guys have the tiebreaker with the wins over them. What do the Giants need to do to win this game against Kyler Murray?
They're going to have to score points. I mean, my Giants right now, 30th ranked in scoring, 19 points a game is just not going to do it with the team, you got to go up against. I think it's going to be an interesting game for the Giants. We saw them step up last week versus Seattle, and I'm just excited for them where they are right now. As a Giants fan, I think that they're playing great defense. I think with Kyler Murray over the last couple of weeks since that AC joint, we've seen him struggle a little bit more. They have been leaning more on Kenyon Drake. DeAndre Hopkins, he's not even running any routes past 15 yards. If you look at the route trees, I think that James Bradbury has a really good matchup against him for the Giants defense. I'm liking the Giants in this one at home. I won't lie.
Yeah, I mean, the Giants defense has been stepping up throughout the entire season. They've just improved and improved and improved, and especially last week. I mean, you're watching that game and you're seeing Russell Wilson, the Seahawks, get the ball with a little bit over a minute and some timeouts, and you're thinking, okay, well, this is where Russell Wilson's going to do his magic, get a nice victory for them
Or
in
the
the last
Giants
couple of
blow it.
seconds. Yeah, or the Giants just blow it. And Leonard Williams stepped up. Dalvin Tomlinson stepped up. James
Absolutely.
Bradbury stepped up. This defense is here, and this defense is here to play. And up against a similar play quarterback in Kyler Murray, they know what they need to do to get it done to stop these very elusive quarterbacks. I'm looking at the Cardinals, though, and I want to see more from Murray. I feel like we just haven't seen the big
Yeah.
game since that injury like you've talked about, and I want to see that really, really happen this week. They're a team that we looked at as one of the best teams midway through the season coming into that point, and they just haven't, they're now 6-6,
Yeah.
a little bit outside of the NFC West picture. After last week's loss, they're not in the playoff picture. The Vikings are able to slip in because of their loss.
Yeah.
So this is a week for them to, I think, try to get a win. Let's continue to work Drake, but I want to see Hopkins have a big game. It's been a long time since we've seen that. I want to see Christian Kirk have a big game. Where are these big games, Kyler? We need it to happen, especially if they have a chance to win against a good Giants team.
Yeah, I mean, I love this Cardinals offense on paper, but when it gets to the game, especially the last couple of weeks, like you mentioned, they've slowed down. Drake is 8th in rushing yards, and it seems like every week, he has 10 carries that are very, very short yardage carries, and Kyler doesn't really, usually he's able to create more plays. I think he's been just a little bit more careful in these games. He hasn't been running for those big yards. I'm looking for a big game from him, but I think the Giants can make some mistakes and get the win at home.
Yeah, I'm also going to go with the Giants here. I trust that defense. It's playing lights out. It's trending upwards for Daniel Jones to come back, which is just big. I mean, Colt McCoy played great last week. He did what he needed to do last week against the Seahawks. Wayne Gallman also stepped up big. We saw once he took off for that big run, it just sort of set the momentum for this Giants team, and I want them to continue to utilize their run game. It would have been amazing right now if you had Barkley, though. It's too bad he had to tear his ACL so early on the season. But I'm also going to take the Giants. I think that the defense is playing well. I think that James Bradbury can slow down DeAndre Hopkins. I think that the defense can put together a scheme that's really going to make Kyler Murray a little bit uncomfortable. And again, if Daniel Jones is in, that's always really helpful. Allows a little bit more run plays than you did with Colt McCoy. A little bit of read option plays, maybe some RPOs that you didn't necessarily get to do with Colt McCoy. Just opens up the offensive playbook a little bit more. I like that. I think it'll be fun for you guys. Moving on, we got the defending Super Bowl champions, the Kansas City Chiefs, taking on one of my favorite teams right now in the NFL, in the Miami Dolphins. What do you got for us for this game, man?
I mean, wouldn't it be something if Miami, after all this talk this year of the quarterback changes, the injuries, the way that we think that they weren't ready this year, wouldn't it just be a beautiful cherry on top if they could take a game against Kansas City at home in Miami and really secure that spot in the playoffs?
I'm gonna just say it now. I think they're going to shock the world on Sunday afternoon. I think the Dolphins are going to win this one. Look, I wrote about them in the offseason, and I said that this team was going to win more games, but that they weren't going to make the playoffs. They decided to say, Sean, you're absolutely right. We're going to win more games, so we're going to make the playoffs. I am all on board. Not so much for Tua time. I love Tua, don't get me wrong, but he's not the reason why I'm on board with this team. I'm on board with this team because I love that defense. I love Brian Flores. He came out in the middle of the field last week to stand up for his player when things were kind of going on in an altercation. Yeah. I love that. If I was a player, I'm here to fight for you. I'm here to win with you. I'm here until the end. I'd love that. And also, one of the things that I just want to point out about them, Brian Flores was a part of that Patriots team that beat the Chiefs twice to go on and win their 6th Super Bowl against the Rams. He was the defensive coordinator who was able to make Mahomes struggle. I'm not saying that because of that, it's going to be a guaranteed win for them. However, I think that with what he knows from Mahomes, the tape that he now has on Mahomes, and the playmakers that he has on his defensive roster, he could put together a scheme that slows down Mahomes. And that really just means 300 yards and like 2 touchdowns instead of 4. So bear in mind, when I say slow down Mahomes will still have a great game, but it's just about making sure that he doesn't have the ball for too long.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a really big matchup. We talk about Miami's defense, their corners, how well they defend the pass, but geez, you are going to be dealing with a hefty just amount of passing targets and passing volume through the air. Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill are on the same team and tied for fifth in the league in targets. They're both tied for fifth in the league with 100. It's ridiculous. 111 targets, and I think that just the way they've been able to, they're both at over 1,000 yards. We still got plenty of regular season football left. I think that right now Mahomes understands that they are just trying to stay atop that AFC. They want to get the bye week. They understand how dangerous it is. I'm going to go with Kansas City. I think that it's going to be really close. Miami has not been letting teams finish drives, and they haven't really been finishing drives, but they've been relying on Jason Sanders, who's second in the NFL in points right now. These guys are winning games. I totally understand the hype train. I'm on it with you, but I'm going Kansas City in this one.
Yeah, I'm going to take the Dolphins. I feel like they're going to surprise the world. I don't know, just like a weird gut feeling. I know that the Dolphins also like to blitz, and Mahomes does excellent against the blitz. He's one of the best passers this season against it. I don't think he even has a turnover when teams decide to blitz on him. So they got to disguise that at the Dolphins. Look, the Dolphins win is contingent on a lot of disguising on the defensive side, and then I'm just hoping enough ball movement on the offensive side to find areas to score. But I got a feeling, man. I got a weird feeling. If there's an upset, similar like the Steelers-Washington game, it's this one. But you also, you make a good point. 11-1, they want that first seed, and the Steelers just lost a game. They're now facing the Bills, which could bring their second loss. It's a chance for the Chiefs to possibly get that first seed for sure. Lock it in right now if they get a huge win over the Dolphins. I think that the Dolphins know that. They want to be the spoilers.
Yeah, I mean, one team though trying to like just stay in this playoff hunt, just try to stay ahead in their division is the Titans, and at the bottom of their division is Jacksonville, who's hosting them this week. So Jacksonville, in all of their misery, will be hosting King Henry for what will probably be a feast. And I think that it's just been Tennessee's game the last couple of years. I feel like every time that we have to watch these guys on Thursday Night Football, we just have to watch Derrick Henry destroy the Jacksonville Jaguars in mustard outfits and uniforms. But now we get them in the afternoon.
Yeah, they're going to be right with us this afternoon. It's going to be it should be a fun game for a little bit. And then after that, it won't. One of the fun things I just want to say about Derrick Henry, and what it is that he does with this team that's so funny is that it's always the second game where it seems that he begins to excel against them. And just to give you guys an example, in 2018, the first game against the Jaguars, only 57 yards and 18 carries. His second game against the Jaguars, 238 yards and 4 touchdowns on 17 carries. Then you go back to last year, only 44 yards and a touchdown off of 17 carries in the first game. Then he had 19 carries for 159 and 2 touchdowns the following game. It's always the second game. Derrick Henry does significantly better. And they held him this year in week 2, only 84 yards on 25 carries. But history says this is about to be a huge Derrick Henry game. Like you said, they did well the first time around. Yeah. But historically with Derrick Henry, they're not going to do well the second time around.
I know. We saw just and what's scary about this Titans offense right now is, usually when you have a good run game, you're always in it. But when you have a passing game like this, you have Ryan Tannehill, doing exactly what he did last December. They're the third highest scoring offense in football right now. And Jacksonville, they are the third worst in the league in giving up points. They give up 29 points a game. This is going to be one of those things where, you bet the over. You bet the over on this game. And Corey Davis, A.J. Brown, start those guys as well in fantasy. Corey Davis had himself an absolute day last week. 12 targets, 11 catches, 182, touchdown. He has 4 on the year. So, to see him get one last week, it was fantastic.
Yeah, I think you got to go with the Titans here. The Jaguars have been playing better football as of late, especially the last couple of weeks. We saw with the Vikings, they were able to force an OT. It looks like at one point they're going to drive until Mike Glenn had an errant pass to Harrison Smith instead of his wide receiver. But you just got to trust what it is that the Titans can do. Their ability to run the ball effectively, and then their ability to also be able to drop back and pass these playmakers in A.J. Brown and Corey Davis. A.J. Brown, I just want to highlight, he is so good at yards after catch. Like, not only is he just a good receiver, his ability to then extend the play and take off on a slant route for 62-yard touchdown, it's pretty incredible. And I expect both of them to have, all three of them really – four of them, just to throw Ryan Tannehill in there. So Ryan Tannehill, Derrick Henry, A.J. Brown, Corey Davis, they should all have a big game against Jacksonville, who I imagine will be fighting throughout the first half, and then we're just going to see Derrick Henry chip away for 15, 25, 25 yards, and it's going to demoralize them. Got to go with the Titans.
I think the Titans as well. And you mentioned, Derrick Henry, and, I'm looking over at Jacksonville. Obviously, the only guys you really want to start there from fantasy, DJ Chark,
James Robinson.
James Robinson. But who gets more? I'm thinking, who gets more yards in this one, Robinson or Henry?
I gotta go Henry, dude. I'm gonna trust the second game.
You're like, don't even finish. It's over.
second game history. This is the first game I might maybe lean towards James Robinson. This is the second game. Always does well. Does he get a 99-yard touchdown again against Jacksonville? I think that'd be the third year in a row.
He just loves doing that to them.
It's only him, too. It's the weirdest thing. Like, you don't see any other running back going off consistently for 90-plus yard touchdowns.
And he's the guy that you look at and you're like, no way he can run the whole field, buddy. You'll catch him. Or go try to
stiff arm.
I mean, it's crazy. I mean, one guy who also has the craziest stiff arm in the league, but he hasn't really looked himself this year, is Zeke Elliott of the Dallas Cowboys. And, they're going to the Bengals this week in a winnable game. But I'm going to tell you right off the bat, spoiler alert, I'm just going to tell you, I think the Bengals take this at home because I really like what T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd are doing this year.
Yeah, they're a lot of fun to watch. Tyler Boyd has been on this team for a while and has done really, really well. I love the rookie T. Higgins. I was big on him coming out of Clemson. I was actually surprised he fell to the second round. I thought he had some more talent that people were sleeping on. And we've seen him this year. I'm looking at these teams, though, and, like, with the Cowboys, you need to have one more big game before the season ends. You just have to. You guys got a big win against the Vikings, which I credit more to Mike McCarthy having been in Green Bay for so long and knowing the Vikings organization so long, not so much the team itself, what they can do. But this is a very, 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 very weak defense. You have a lot of playmakers, both in the receiving and the running. Let's have one
back there.
Let's have just one big, good Cowboys day on offense. This is the defense to do it. The rest of the season is going to suck. We got to face the Cowboys and the Eagles and the Giants. So two pretty tough defenses. Then the Eagles are just always, that's one of those 50-50 games. This is a game you can really just have some fun, try to run up some points.
Yeah.
Open up the playbook. Get CeeDee Lamb, Michael Gallup, Mari Cooper, Ezekiel Elliott. Let's get everyone involved. Let's have a 3-touchdown game for Andy Dalton. If they don't do it this week, I don't know what the Cowboys will look like next season if they're not able to get a win over the Bengals.
Yeah, I mean, ever since it's just evident with Joe Burrow out that, this team was in need of a quarterback, and they got a first overall quarterback for the Bengals. And, now that he's out, you just see what happens to these teams, and they become winnable games, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But Dallas, like you're saying, I think this is a good game for Zeke. I think this is an opportunity to get Cooper, CeeDee Lamb, Michael Gallup the ball. I think it's a good opportunity for Andy Dalton, coming back to the Bengals. We haven't really talked about that. It's not really something people are talking about. 10 years. It's an interesting thing.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about Andy Dalton now going back to Cincy. And since he is hosting, I may change it. I think that Dallas, Andy Dalton, could have a hot game. He could have some motivation on his mind, and he could do it.
Yeah, I mean, this is the team that drafted him. This is the team that made him the franchise quarterback for so many years. What was it? Like almost a decade around then, maybe less, like 8 years.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Then they decided that it was time, and it definitely was time. And Burrow, I believe, will be the future of that team, regardless of this injury. But come on, Dallas, one game. Let's just see the playmakers really go out and ball out
I
like they
love that.
did against the Vikings. I just got to trust that they can get that win, Dallas,
Yeah.
over Brandon Allen and the Bengals.
Go give them one more game. I mean, I liked the Bengals going into this because the Cowboys are giving up a lot of points, and the weapons there, the big playability from Higgins, Joe Mixon coming back a little bit. Maybe we'll be fully active. Maybe we'll see what his snap percentage looks like. But I think this is an opportunity for Dallas to win. I started with the spoiler alert, but I'm thinking about this Andy Dalton revenge game. It's an interesting one. But let's move on. We got the. Oh, you want to go? You going?
Oh,
You
I
got a
wanted to
question?
I wanted to bring this up because you just
Hit me with it.
the way that you phrased it, the way the revenge game I liked. And
Yeah.
speaking of revenge games, just because I wanted to preamble this into our next game, Deshaun Watson is taking on the Bears. Okay, and for those of us who don't remember, the Bears moved up in 2017 draft from the third spot to the second to draft the well-known, the very hated Mitchell Trubisky. They had a chance that year to get Patrick Mahomes or Deshaun Watson. Now, at the time, everyone was baffled by the Mitchell Trubisky. And at the time, I'm going to be honest to the listeners, Jack.
We weren't high on Pat Mahomes.
Jack and I did not like Mahomes. We talked about it. We didn't think this guy would be anything, and he has made us eat our words.
People saying he's got sloppy footwork. Look at that guy drop back now.
I know. Sloppy forward, he can still launch at 50 yards. But I'm looking at this game, and if I'm Deshaun Watson, I'm playing this game with a chip on my shoulder. When you look at that draft, you could have easily said no to Mahomes at the time. At the time, I just can't stress that enough. But it was very clear that Deshaun Watson was at least the number one quarterback of that draft. So when they went Mitchell Trubisky, it made no sense. They had a chance to go to Deshaun Watson, who's one of the best quarterbacks in the league right now. With this defense, this could potentially have been a Super Bowl winning team with A-Rob and Deshaun, and then just the defense of Khalil Mack, Roquan Smith, Kyle Fuller, Eddie Jackson would have been really, really terrifying.
Yeah.
This is a revenge game for Deshaun Watson. This is going to be a game where he says, this is why you should have drafted me. This is why drafting Mitchell Trubisky was a mistake. And I think that the Texans are going to get a huge upset in Chicago, even though they have no wide receivers. Their defense is not doing great. Deshaun Watson is going to put on a little bit of magic and show them what it is that they're missing.
Yeah, I'm actually loving that. The revenge game. It just sounds right. But I want to just mention that the defense of the Texans, as you mentioned, is not playing well. But Zach Cunningham, I just bring him up every week because that guy, take him off the top of the list. He's leading the NFL in total tackles. I think he is going to be spying, Trubisky if he tries to run out of the pocket. I think that he's going to have to try to contain Montgomery, who for the Bears last week, 17 rushes, 72 yards, 2 touchdowns on the ground. They had 2 touchdowns going into last week as a team. I mentioned last week on the show that they were the worst in rushing total. Still are, but doubled it, and from 2 to 4. It's like Pam. But no, I'm expecting Allen Robinson to have a huge game, though. I like the Texans. I'll agree with you with that. The Bears right now, they're just not scoring, man. 28th in points. Worst rush offense, second worst rush offense, 86 yards a game. That is not going to get it done against a team with Deshaun Watson at the helm.
Yeah, I just to give a comment to the Bears, still have a great defense. Although the last couple weeks have been hard for them. It was a surprise loss last week against the Lions. Trubisky seems to give them a little bit more of a fire than Foles has. He's a little bit more mobile, moves around a little bit more. But 4 turnovers in the last 2 games is not what you want to see. You don't want to turn the ball over this week against the Texans right now. You want to try to have as clean of a game if you can if you're the Bears. I like the Texans in this one. I feel like the Bears had a must-win game last week against the Lions to still remain in the playoff picture. They lost that. Now they're 9th in the playoff spot. They now need to win this game, and even then, if the Lions win and the Vikings take a loss, there's a tiebreakers to both them, and that's not the position that you want to be in. So this is a must-win game, but I don't trust that what this offense is capable of. Like you mentioned, one of the worst running attacks in the entire NFL. They're 28th in points scored a game. This is a favorable defensive matchup, but given what the offense can do, Also kind of gives J.J. Watt an opportunity to maybe play well.
Yeah,
So,
maybe a big JJ Watt game. I love watching him go off. He's always like, he's just one of the best guys in the NFL. So when he
yeah,
goes off against a team with a quarterback like Mitch Trubisky, and you're like, you don't mind him getting sacked, you're like, all right,
it's fun.
But it's fun because he runs around in the backfield, and Mitch will give him a little bit of a challenge. But I'm pretty excited. But the next game we got Carolina 4-8 hosting Denver 4-8. Both teams that we were expecting this season to have a lot. We didn't expect them to look like this going into Week 14.
No, we wrote about the Broncos being good. I mean,
Team
injuries
to watch.
have definitely played a role in that when you're missing, all-world outside linebacker in Von Miller, and then
Yep.
you're missing a great young wide receiver in Cortland Sutton, and you're forcing a lot of these younger guys to step up, including your first-round pick, Jerry Jeudy. It makes it that much harder, I think, for a team to succeed. And then you've had very choppy quarterback play.
Mm.
If you even have a quarterback out, they're the only team that has shown us that in the 2020 year of COVID, you could potentially not even have a quarterback play if someone doesn't follow the protocols.
Yeah.
There's been a tough season for the Broncos. I just want to highlight Tim Patrick. It seems like he's now the wide receiver 1 for the 2020 season. He's got 40 catches, 607 yards, 5 touchdowns. He's doing very, very well for them.
It's fantastic.
And on the defensive side, they're not going to be with A.J. Boye for the next 6 games off of a PED suspension.
Yeah.
But Justin Simmons is there, still one of the best safeties in the league, 4 interceptions this season. He's playing well. I don't know what to think of this game, though. I do like the Panthers. I enjoy watching Curtis Samuel and Robbie Anderson. I think that Mike Davis, because it's probably not going to be a CMC this week, are going to be fun to kind of watch. Sadly, there's also no DJ Moore, was put on the COVID list earlier this week, so they will be without their star wide receiver again.
Yeah. Oh man. I mean, what a hit though. I love DJ Moore because he has been able to be a really good possession receiver with Curtis Samuel, who and Robbie Anderson, who are more speed guys.
Mm-hmm.
He's become Teddy's top target, and Teddy, we've been just looking for you to throw these touchdowns, man. He has struggled to get the ball into the end zone through the air. And that's my one worry. I mean, with CMC, that's what this offense is built on, and when he's not in, as you mentioned, he's going to be out again. It's looking like, with another injury. He had a quad injury in practice last week. So, CMC owners, sorry, I had him too. It's a tough world. 3rd injury of the year for a guy that, everybody thought, would really help this team stay competitive. But, I'm liking the Broncos in this one, honestly. I like how Bradley Chubb is playing. I think the Broncos, even though they've taken some hits with DJ Moore out, I think that they're going to be able to take a lot of the, pressure to Bridgewater up front. And I am liking what they're doing. Like I mentioned, Bradley Chubb, 7.5 sacks. I think he's very productive. I think the Broncos take this one.
Yeah, I'm gonna just to defer from you. I'm gonna take the Panthers. I really like Curtis Samuel and how they're really beginning to utilize him in the offense, both running and receiving. They're doing a lot with him, and he's really stepped up into his role. I have enjoyed Robbie Anderson all season. He is definitely their deep threat. I'm curious to see what it'll be like with no DJ Moore for sure. But I think that Teddy can get it done. I want to see Ian Thomas. I want to see a tight end get a little bit more involved in this offense, but. My question for you is, who's going to get more yards, do you think? Mike Davis or Melvin Gordon, who just had 113 yards rushing last week?
I'm liking Melvin Gordon in that. I think that the way that he's able to break on for some big runs this season, I think that this Panthers defense is strong up front, but once Melvin gets to the second level, I think that he has big play potential, so I would go with Melvin on that.
Awesome. I like it. One more thing I just realized. This is a Super Bowl 50 rematch. The Denver Broncos. Oh, how far they've fallen from the Super Bowl.
MVP Cam Newton and going into the Hall of Fame, Peyton Manning. And
I know. Now both these teams are sitting at 4-8 5 years later. And
Drew Lock, Teddy Bridgewater. It's the same thing.
It's very different. That's all the time that we have. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Thank you, everyone, for listening. We hope you enjoy Sunday's early games, and yeah, it should be some good ones.
Yeah, always remember to check us out. YouTube, Just Saying Football, justsayingfootball.com, and on Instagram, Just Saying No GWJS for all your article and video updates. Thanks.
Thank you.
Enjoy the games.